Hello class 8. Let's continue chapter 2, reproduction in plants. In previous video we have already discussed about the asexual reproduction and its different types, vegetative propagation and artificial vegetative propagation. Now in this video we will discuss about the sexual reproduction in plants. All of you know flower is the reproductive part of a plant. Now question is, what is flower? The flower is the most beautiful, attractive and colorful part of a plant which helps in the sexual reproduction and later forms fruits and seeds. Right? Now next is your name the 4 whorls in a flower and give function of each whorl. Now actually each flower has 4 main whorls or main 4 parts are there. That is called calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. Actually calyx and corolla, that is your calyx are your sepals, right, that green part, and corolla are your colored petals are called corolla. These two are non-essential part of the flower, right? But androecium is a male part and gynoecium is a female part of the flower, which are essential part of a flower. Now first, what is calyx? Calyx is it is the outermost whorl made up of green leaf like structures and called sepals. It protects the inner parts of the flower during bud stage, while corolla, it is the second whorl, that is your colorful part of the that petals, and usually these are either they are colored or they are white. Especially the day blooming flowers have always colored petals and night blooming flowers has white petals, and they are also called petals. Corolla attract insects for pollination. What is the main function of corolla in the flower? Corolla, they attract the insects for pollination. Now next is your androecium. It is a male part of the flower. It is a third whorl of the flower and made up of stamens. A stamen has 2 main parts, that is called filament and anther. Anther produce pollen grains that contain the male gamete, that is called pollen, right? Now next is your gynoecium. This is the female reproductive part of the flower and it consists of pistils or carpels. Now each pistil is made up of 3 main parts, that is called stigma, style and ovary. Ovary, it contain ovules, which are female gamete, and after fertilization these ovules are converted into seeds, right? Now children, I am again explaining different parts of flower through this video. Now all of you know flower is the most beautiful, attractive and colorful part of a plant which help in sexual reproduction and later forms fruits and fruit and seeds, right? Now the stalk of flower is called pedicel, right? And this swollen part, this green part on which all 4 whorls grow, that is called receptacle, right? This is called receptacle or thalamus. Now on which flower has main essential or non-essential parts. Now your non-essential parts are your sepal and petals. Sepal are calyx and petals are corolla. Now calyx, they help in photosynthesis and protect the flower during bud time, and petals or corolla, they help in attraction of insects for pollination. Then essential parts are your stamens and pistil. Stamens are your androecium. Androecium consists of stamens and gynoecium consists of pistil, right? Pistil is your female part and stamens are your male part, right? Just remember. And now next is your stamens, that is your androecium consists of stamens. Stamens has main 2 parts, anther and filament. Anther produce pollen grains. Now next is your gynoecium. Gynoecium consists of pistil. Pistil has 3 parts, stigma, style and ovary. Ovary has what? Contain ovule. Now just look at these ovules. These then after fertilization they form seeds, right? Now look at your male reproductive part of plant. The male reproductive part are your stamens, and they consist of anther and the filament, and anther produce pollen grains. Now female reproductive part, they called carpel or pistil, and the top part of the carpel or pistil is called stigma. The stigma is supported by style, and lower part is called ovary. And ovary contain one or more ovules. Each ovule has a female gamete. Now there are two types of flower, that is called bisexual flower and unisexual flower. Flowers that contain both male and female reproductive parts are called bisexual flowers. Example, rose and hibiscus. Now the flowers like papaya and watermelon, they either contain male part or female reproductive part, and they are called unisexual flower. So flower that contain either male or female reproductive part are called unisexual flower. Okay, now next is your what is pollination. Pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the male anther to the female stigma, right? Now next, naturally for fertilization to take place, pollen grains need to be transferred from stamen to the stigma, and there are two types of pollination. That is called what? Self-pollination and cross-pollination. If the transfer of pollen grains takes place in the same flower, then it is called self-pollination. Just look at here, the pollen grains they are transferring to the stigma of the same flower, then it is called what? Self-pollination. Now next is your what? Cross-pollination. Now in cross-pollination, what's happened? The pollen grains are transferred from one flower to the another, then it is called cross-pollination. Means both the flowers born on two different plants but of the same species, right? Then it is called what? Cross-pollination. There are several agents of pollination such as insects, wind and water. Insects are very good pollinating agents, and they help in transferring pollen grains from one flower to another flower, and in this way they help in pollination. Now next is your after the pollen grains, when they lands on the stigma, the tube cell produces a pollen tube through the style into the ovule. Okay, after they reach the ovule, one of the male gametes fuses with the female gamete, leading to the fertilization, right? So what is fertilization? Fusion of male gamete with the female gamete is called fertilization. Then fertilization leads to the formation of zygote, right? And the other male gamete fuses with the polar nuclei to eventually form endosperm. Means finally it forms endosperm. Then the zygote divides, multiply many times to form an embryo within the ovule. The endosperm, it provides nourishment to the embryo, and finally the ovule develops and turns into a seed. And the ovary enlarges and converts into the fruit that bears the seeds. Okay, now next.